Welcome to the FounderVideo podcast, an interview series bringing you the latest and greatest info on B2B marketing, revenue operations, and go-to-market strategy from respected experts. Here is your host, Will Yuste.
So, we're here for the 27th episode of the FounderVideo podcast. Today we have with us Santiago Suarez, co-founder and CEO of Momentum.io. I mean, I would call it a sales intelligence platform, but you let me know. We could discuss about this later as well, like how it fits into the category and how it may be changing the space or how the space is changing itself. But first, Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We call it enterprise listening. By the way, we're trying to shake up the category a bit. It is definitely in the sales intelligence, conversational intelligence space, but we think that category by itself has gone through a couple of different transformations. And in the age of Gen AI, it is overdue for a bit of a change. So enterprise listening is what we pitch.
I like the concept a lot, and we'll talk about what enterprise listening means and what it conveys and what it scopes. But first, I want to share the story of how I met you because I think it's just interesting. I am in Rift Genius, as in many other communities, and one of your, I want to call her a sales rep. She's titled as a GTM strategist, Martina. She was in Rift Genius, and I saw her intro, and I have keyword notifications on Slack on communities. If they mention anything related to RevOps, sales tech, like stuff like that, right? So it popped and I got the notification. And then she prospected me on LinkedIn. She was doing like omni-channel, right? Email, LinkedIn, and Slack and in communities and stuff. So she was doing a great job. And then I found you as a founder, and I found that founder that is doing video consistently, that is doing product marketing right, that is talking about the pains, that is, doing thought leadership, all that stuff. And then running ads with those videos on LinkedIn because I saw some. I was like, okay, I need to interview this guy,
That's how we do it.
Yeah. And I followed up. It took me 4 months, but now we're here. So tell me, and, I bring up this story because it's a perfect segue to tap into how you've built your go-to-market motion, how you've built your engine of founder-led content, of putting yourself out on video, of having a narrative, of having talking points, whatnot. And then we can, if there's a specific part of your GTM motion that, well, there's two, right? Founder-led content and your team of SDRs from Argentina, right? You're Argentinian yourself, and you've managed to, build a sales team from Argentina that's selling effectively into US enterprises, right? Which is not common to see, and I love to see it. So yeah. Go ahead.
Non-trivial effort, indeed. So yeah, we sell to CROs, RevOps teams, those buyers, especially on the mid-market and up. They don't shop around for stuff. They don't go on Google and search for sales intelligence, and get to our website and sign up for a demo on their own. It's a target audience you have to go hunt out, especially as you go up market, which is our segment. We spent years, I as an engineer, never sold anything to save my life before I started Momentum. You needed to really learn the value of building predictable top of funnel, and SDRs was the way we decided to drive our own. It's proven to be a smart choice, especially anchoring in Argentina. We have a couple of superpowers on that front. I am Argentinian myself, which means I have a strong network here. And I also, as of 2 years ago, I moved down to Argentina, in part because my SDR organization was functioning so well that I wanted to double down on it. And since that change has happened, the output of the team has increased dramatically, and the size of the team too. We now have 18 people like Martina doing multi-channel outreach, and I'm very proud of the team we built. And I look up to them in many, many ways. They know how to pitch my product better than I do themselves by this point.
That's amazing. What would be the learnings you would say as a founder, from a founder's POV, to build a high sales team when you are not that good at selling as a founder? Because my take is that as a founder, if you're not good at selling, you shouldn't be building a sales team yet, and you should be learning how to sell first. And look, I think you're good at marketing because I see your clips, and I think you're good at conveying the value. But I think there's in founders, I think I am good at marketing, but I'm not that good at sales either. Because sales is people, is one-to-one. It's a lot of like push and pull, and there's a lot of roller coaster. So there's a lot of emotions, and you got to dance that. And again, there probably has been moments in your case that you were like imposter syndrome or just not feeling like, hey, am I doing this right? Is it right for me to lead this, 18 people team to go and sell my product, when if I was in their shoes, maybe I would do it as worse than them, whatever. How do you feel about that? And how do you think about it? And why do you see it working? Like, why does it work?
Yeah. So look, it's been a journey. We started Momentum. It's going to come to about its fifth year now. So it's been a long journey. And I don't think at the beginning I would have been qualified for it. The first 2 years of this company was me honestly learning how to sell, how to pitch. At the same time, you're figuring out your product and trying to hone in on a product market fit that works, that grows. So we took advantage of those first couple of years to develop the skills it took to message, to position, to sell. Momentum has been founder-led for the majority of its time. And this is the year that we started investing in professionalizing the sales organization. We now have a team of, I think it's 7 reps now. We have a VP sales. We're growing the team further. The SDR team started as 2 or 3, 2.5 years ago. And as the team got a yield and resulted in good growth, we kept on adding people to the process, to the point that at this point, we're hiring people to that team in groups of 3 or 4 at a time. And as long as the metrics continue to show tracking up and to the right, we'll continue to do that further. So the learnings from me on that basis is, look, top of funnel is everything, especially in the early stage. It's easy to talk to big companies that have been developed for a decade and they have invested in marketing and brand and positioning, and the market understands what they do, and have them come and tell you that 90% of their business is generated inbound. But as it turns out, in the real world, when you're starting from scratch, nobody's going to come inbound unless you get very lucky and you pull off a one-off miracle where all of a sudden you get a lot of traffic in, or you spend a fortune on Google and ads. You're going to have to go hunt for your own pipeline. And we decided to invest in SDR for that, which led us to pretty predictable results month after month, good cost, given the fact that we're basing it in Argentina. And that's part of the success of the company over the last couple of years.
I love that. It's a wealth creation arbitrage in a way, and more people should be aware of it. I mean, if all Silicon Valley was to hire, if the first thing they would look at wasn't US talent, so many things can change. But either way, I wanted to ask you, when you start a sales team from Argentina, I think this is the best way to frame it. What are the key components from your analysis and from your perspective that made your SDR team successful as a Spanish-speaking native SDR team and build predictable pipeline, whereas most other SDR teams getting built in the past couple of years are not working at all?
So I think in general, building outbound sales motion requires time and dedication. I think most founders, especially in the early stages, could overlook the importance of building a predictable funnel to invest in their SDR teams. You hire these people, they're right out of school. You think they're just going to do their work and you're going to give them a lot of effort. You're going to put your energy and attention into things like my product, my features, my investor relationships. And in the end, what I realized is at the very top of the funnel that makes everything in the business work is those SDRs. They are the ones that bring the meetings that ultimately turn into customers, that give you revenue and give you growth and ultimately give you funding. So I think one of the key qualities is time, dedication, and attention. I'm sitting right next to all 18 of my SDRs. They work out of the office. We come to the office Monday to Friday, 9 to 6 every day. It's a classic model. People are not working remote. Being in Argentina gives us a couple of extra superpowers that only really work because I'm here. But Momentum is a special company in Rosario. If we were in San Francisco, California, and that's where I built my career and I spent the last almost 2 decades of my life, we would just be another Series A startup, that raised from a couple of cool investors, but nothing too noteworthy. But in Rosario, Argentina, we're special. We're almost like the Google of Argentina. We get to buy lunch for people every day of the week. They get to see what it feels like to raise millions of dollars and grow the business. We take them on trips, and that makes us special. So that gets us a higher level of talent, a higher degree of dedication, incredible retention, And those are superpowers that make the team perform. And performing SDR team means performing sales organization as a whole.
Look, for the US listeners that don't get this, if you treat your company as a product for the market of talent, you're going to get treated best anywhere else than in the US. If you treat your company as a product, as the client being the market, then you're not going to be treated anywhere else better than in the US.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
the truth. If you present your company to the market, take it to the US market if you want clients, and take it to anywhere else if you want talent.
It's a tricky line to walk, but we've been able to do it well. We have long trajectories in the US market. We have connections, investors. So we've been able to fundraise and sell to our buyers in the US, which is where we were, formed as professionals, all three founders. But then we got to build a team. And by the way, we have a sales team in the US. Our VP sales is in Boston. We have strat reps in Florida, San Francisco. When it comes to working those deals, getting together, visiting an office, closing the deal, we've decided to invest in the US because that matters to our buyers in many ways. Even our CS team is co-located. But when it comes to generating volume, Argentina has been a fundamental part of the strategy.
I love it, man. It's just the playbook. Either way, that aside, because it's a big point, and I think we could go on and on and on about it. And that's why I want to take it to my Spanish channel as well, because I think we could, especially for the Spanish audience, like talk about the intangibles that get built when you put out an SDR from Argentina to prospect it to the US, right? Like the level of awareness, communication, professionalism, attentiveness, dedication, consultative technical knowledge as well, learning the ropes of the industry. You don't talk about enterprise listening. If you see what I'm saying, like you cannot talk about enterprise listening in the same way that you learn how to sell a line of credit in 3 months. See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it's not.
it's
nowhere near the same. And so, segueing into that, to put a name and a last name, nombre y apellidos, to to the product. You mentioned momentum is more of an infrastructure rather than a product. How do you see this almost philosophical, I would say, approach to the product influence the roadmap decisions, feature prioritization, as well as the CS approach, like the level of touch in the relationship with the customers? And if you want to tie this to your background and kind of like, engineering and sales background, tying into your product's DNA.
I try to blend them all. They do blend. You're accurately navigating them all in your head. They do connect. I'm an engineer by trade. I was the first engineer at a company called Sauce Labs 15 years ago plus. I was at MuleSoft doing integration software at the time of the IPO. I started my first company doing reliability and DevOps for businesses. So momentum was a bit of an oddball for me, but just another exploration into areas I thought were high yield at the time. And this is right before Gen AI came into the scene, but we thought rep efficiency, operational efficiency for scaling sales organizations was paramount. We thought there were a couple of innovations in the space, like leveraging Slack and simple no-code workflows was going to be the big breakthrough. And what we didn't know is AI was going to come into the scene. At the time, when we started Momentum, we were selling a tool. We were selling a product that sales teams needed to engage with and use every day. And it took us years of learning to realize sales teams don't want a new product. They don't want to have another tab open in their browser to get their job done every day. They're not looking for tools. They have pain. And if they could address that pain without adopting any new products, that would be the ideal scenario. So when Gen AI came into the scene, we realized we got to go build the infrastructure, no products. So at that point, we built Momentum and everything we prioritize today in the roadmap on the basis of low adoption. How do we deliver value with zero adoption? Can we write your notes for you? Can we fill in your fields? Can we write your follow-ups? Can we answer the questions for your manager and your manager's manager and your CRO and your RevOps team without the rep even knowing that we're in the fold? And that's why we pitch it as infrastructure and not as a tool. And buyers left and right love to hear when I come and I tell them, look, there's no rep adoption. There's no onboarding process. There's minimal engagement we need from your team to deliver the value you want to buy. That is music to everybody's ears because every team out there knows, buying software is the first challenge, choosing the right software to buy. The second challenge is, how do I get my 1,500 sales reps to adopt this thing? How many of them will do it? And if you get, less than 10% adoption, you threw money out the window, and everybody got bit by that problem over the last couple of years. So we sell against that.
I love it because it also goes in hand with how SaaS needs to get sold or bought, for a better term, in the next decade, which is you're going to need to create impact before you can even charge. And it's the case already in a lot of cases, right? Especially in enterprise. But in enterprise, it's always been like that. But my point is that even the PLGs, even the low tickets, even especially those in SaaS are getting wrecked because there's inflated CAC, especially in North America, inflated just by how much VC there is, not because of a quality competition, but because of a volume thing. It's just too much money. Of course, the CPM is going to be higher, right? So it's an inflated CAC and a lack of product market fit in a lot of cases because there's a lack of connection between market and product in many times because there's excess of capital. And that makes it so that for all the time that's happened so far in the last 15 years, it's gotten to a point where everyone is so sick and tired of getting another demo of another product that the default state, at least in my case, is that I don't want and I don't need any software or any tool or anything, nothing. Don't talk to me. I don't need software. I'm overdrawn in software already. I'm looking every fucking week, whether I can cut or not, all the fucking subscriptions I have. Don't bother me. I don't need, I don't want to think. Give me something that will add me value. Make me that wow effect. Give me something that is alleviating my pain. And then I'll listen to you, right? This is what the current state of software is, especially if you're selling it to CROs, right? Those are the ones that are the most, I think that is probably, yeah. So
100%. If I got paid $10 for every time I stood in front of a CRO and told me things like, Santi, I have 32 tools in my stack. What makes you think that you're going to be number 33? Why would I bring a number 33? So, and perhaps for the context of the listener, what Momentum does and what we sell, what is enterprise listening, you may ask? Well, Momentum is able to integrate into all the sources of interaction with your customers, emails, calls, tickets, support tickets, everything your team is using to engage with your customers, we analyze. So when we're talking about calls, we're talking about the full call transcript for an hour-long conversation. That's about 8,000 words. But even an email that has 3 sentences can have jam-packed useful information for you from that sentence. A ticket, a support ticket, may have frustration, explicit statements that tell you a customer is at risk of churning. So being able to funnel all 3 sources in real time through a pipeline of analysis, and then being able to extract the pieces that are super relevant for you. Like, this customer is frustrated. They just had a riff. They're not using enough seats. They said that they bought 10, but they're using 3. Or, they have access to the economic buyer. They have a budget of $15,000. They have these 3 metrics that they believe we can impact. All those insights that we extract get systematically placed into your systems of record. It could be Salesforce. It could be Slack for notices and signals that your team is looking for. So you turn Momentum on a Monday morning, and when I stand in front of that CRO, by that afternoon, I can give them long-form analysis of what happened in their business over the last month. What are the most common competitors? Who is picking up? What features are coming up as the biggest losses on the competitive landscape? What feature requests are coming up from active customers? And all that is done without anybody talking, without anybody touching Momentum, just simple analysis of every interaction with customers and then presentation in a simple, brief fashion.
This podcast is brought to you by FounderVideo.com, a LinkedIn ads agency and go-to-market consultancy. Increase your brand authority and reduce your cost to acquire a customer with a holistic content marketing narrative, signal-based selling, and natural-looking ad creatives that prospects actually want to consume. Just have an expert in your C-suite show up to a 90-minute interview once a month and let us take care of the rest. Turn LinkedIn ads into a scalable revenue channel that fits into your go-to-market strategy. Book a free consultation at FounderVideo.com.
So run me through this. If I buy Momentum today, it's not for my use case, because in my case, it will be for content. I need something like Momentum, but for content, not for sales, because my sales is content, right? I do sales through whatever. But say I set up Momentum, right? And I wanted to connect to, I connected to all of my tools. All bilateral communication with customers is done. It's connected, it's integrated. What do I get from Momentum day 1, week 1, what is the trigger? Where do I see it? Like, how does it look like? If you want to share screen, you can, if you want.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I'll talk through it. Value number one, operational efficiency. Eliminate the need for your reps to go do admin in your CRM. It's an easy sell. Every company we talk to can tell us, look, my team is spending 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, 3 hours a week doing note taking and completing fields. So number one is eliminating that time completely. Makes your reps happy, makes your leadership team happy, because on the other side of operational efficiency is data quality. Can we have our forecast be more accurate because all of a sudden we're systematically extracting what makes up a deal, more likely to happen or less likely to happen? So operational efficiency, data accuracy, and then the final bit is high-level database decision-making. What if I can give that CRO the aggregate of everything I'm looking at, the conclusions, the insights that let them decide to change the messaging, to deploy more resources to the enterprise segment, or to deploy more resources to the inbound part of the funnel versus the outbound, because all of these insights come from what customers are telling your team in the field. So those are the three pillars of what we do. And for that, we kind of analyze all these data sets systematically. We can do it backwards. We can do it in real time. And then all of these data is going into either reports or CRM fields and notes or Slack channels.
And the reports, you get them over email, I'm assuming, right? Or whatever. Or
yeah, we send them over email. We generate PDFs. They also have a cool ChatGPT-like interface where you can chat. So there is a web app to it where you can kind of double click on the stuff we're telling you we're seeing. And it's a chat-like interface.
But mostly the way you see Momentum acting is not within its platform itself. It's just through your applications, because it's sort of like as you said, it's an infrastructure, not a plugin. Not
exactly.
a product, sorry.
It's a data pipeline. Data starts showing up where you need it.
This feels weird to me because I never like, how do you, like, is it web based? Like, you just install it and it connects, you just set up the integration, whatever, and then it's done, right?
Yeah, so the big part of the experience with Momentum, and we have a CSM team that is responsible for this, is the understanding of what data you want. Every business has different needs. They have a different way to sell. They have a different way to understand their customers. Yes, you may find patterns, like many companies are using Medic or MedPick or Bant or Spiced to sell, and we have pre-built components for many of these. But in the end, every business wants to customize and configure Momentum to extract the data that is most relevant to them and nobody else. So there's a process of coming into our admin. It's a web application, and it's usually limited to the RevOps team, maybe the leadership on the sales org, to come and refine that. Hey, yes, we do Medic. These are the 5 fields that I want you to write into to complete that in my CRM. And by the way, in my company, the way we write the metrics field in Medic is special. We're looking for only these 3 types of metrics and nothing else. So I want Momentum to make sure it extracts whenever we're pitching one of those 3 and ignore everything else. So that is the process of prompt engineering that you do with our team once you set it up. The beauty of Momentum is it's a pretty decent amount of refinement up front. Let's say 1 or 2 days being placed by your RevOps team and our prompt engineers. And then just magic happens. Moving forward, not a single sales rep needs to be onboarded into your way of doing Medic. Not a single rep has to sit down and write into your CRM. It just runs from that point on, which gives us very sticky retention. Momentum has got an incredible net dollar retention over time. We have customers that have been customers of ours for 4 years in a row and love what we do. And we don't need their reps to be trained over and over to come to our product or to use the solution. Data just flows for them once they set it up.
Exactly. They just get the insights and the things happening, right? Like, they get more time and more efficient time, basically.
Exactly right. That's why we pitch it as infrastructure. Nobody is, going to AWS to do a lot of work every single day for it to yield value for you. Once they set up the servers, they're up and running, they're solving your problems, and you just pay for it.
I really love, because, man, there's really few MarTech and sales tech that feels like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the only thing, a CRM, but you use it every day. This is data pipeline, as you said. It's a data pipeline. It's just putting in and putting out, and then drawing in conclusions and putting them in your environment already, like where you're living. You don't need to move anywhere. You just need to keep going with your day-to-day. Your day-to-day will just be more efficient, and just better. Like you produce more, basically more efficient. That's it.
I mean, we're literally just reacting to what the market has been asking for. We're not innovating in any way and convincing the market to follow this pattern. They're coming to us and saying, hey, I already have a CRM. The problem I have is it's full of crap and it's empty. Could you please solve that problem for me and get out of the way? So we've been systematically doing that over a couple of years, and here's what we got.
It's amazing, but I think it's partly why you guys are, in a way, I mean, I wouldn't call it low-key necessarily, but I don't think you guys are making so much noise for what it is doing, because there's a lot of competition and it's hard, right, to stand out. Which leads me to my question, like, what do you think makes Momentum different? Like, what is the little, if there was one thing that you think is different from any other tool or platform? Because I'm not that well versed in the category, you know. I know the classics, right, like Gong, Outreach, whatever. All of these have now Drift, conversational marketing. Like most of these sales intelligence tools, all of them are trying to be true journalists, and there's not so much specialization. And a lot of the old players, and also some of newcomers, are just you know, adding features on features on features and trying to have everything. Therefore, it's really hard to tell who does what, right? If I talk about Gong, I can say so many things about what does Gong do. Well, like it's just, you see what I'm saying? Outreach, same thing. They all try to be this all they want sell, because they try to get the attention of the sales rep as if this was a social media platform. It's not that, you know, you don't need them every day in your platform. You're not going to make more money out of that, right? It's whatever. But yeah, I think, yeah, again, back to my question. What do you think makes Momentum different? As like, are there any other competitors doing this data pipeline and infrastructure, like infrastructure rather than product, and positioning like this? And how do you see Momentum thriving?
Yeah, so look, I don't know personally every single founder and every single competitor that we go after, but yes, it is an incredibly competitive space we're in. What I can derive is from seeing their behavior, the products they launch, the way they announce them. And what I've concluded and what I've told my investors when we raised the round, and what I tell them every day, and I tell it to my team, I don't think it's a secret, because ultimately I think you don't win by keeping secrets, you win by out executing everybody else. So what makes us special is we believe that the data set that we have access to is one of the most powerful data sets for a business. The systematic extraction of insights from the words that your customers are giving you every day, it is so incredibly powerful. If you think about it, you know, I have a team of 18 SDRs trying to get these people to get in front of me, to please give me half an hour of their time. And when they do, you know, they don't read your emails. They won't give you the 3 seconds it takes to read an email, but they'll give you half an hour every once in a while. And when they do, they show up to a call and they spend half an hour telling you what they think about you, asking you questions, telling you what they think about your price, your competitors, your features, whether they are willing to buy it, whether or not, what features resonate the most. It's about 4,000 words in half an hour, an incredible data set. You know, we spend our time slicing and dicing product usage, right? Oh, one data point, they use this feature, they don't use that feature, they logged in, they didn't log in. It's an incredibly sparse data set compared to 4,000 words a single customer gives you in half an hour. Now, when you take this to scale, a company with hundreds of reps is taking thousands of these calls a week. So what makes us special is the belief that mining that data set, that extracting every ounce of value that data set can contain for a business can be transformational. Other vendors, they're selling you replacement for Salesforce. They're selling you the good old, hey, come to my tech, and your reps are going to be able to, you know, follow up a little faster. They'll be able to, you know, stay on top of the deals a little more. Our belief is on the extraction of value from that already existing resource, and nothing but that.
It's really interesting, because I think in that game, Salesforce is a clear winner. At least it appears to kind of have the biggest chances to be, right? Like, who holds the most data about companies right now in tech? About relevant companies, right? Like other technological companies. Salesforce. That's the one that, well, you could argue, I mean, sure, yeah, Meta, Google, all that. But Salesforce now has built this agentic layer of software, customer 360, all that stuff. And, you know, from what Mark Benioff is saying, like it's clear, like there's an intention to make best use of such, it's insane the amount of data that they have. It says, I think it was 8 petabytes or something like that. Yeah, like that needs to be used and will be used in some shape or form to create more value. And if they really want to, Salesforce can provide with the agent, like it could capture a lot of the demand that is growing for AI in many areas.
So. I mean, in the world of agents, data is the key unlock. Everybody's got technology to run agentic-like behavior, right? We can all go and use an API to hit ChatGPT or GPT-4, GPT-4o1, and get smart behavior. Everybody can build no-code workflows. The key differentiator between good agents and shitty agents will be how much context, how much data that agent has to make decisions based on. And the challenge you have with Salesforce is for 25 years, the source of data that goes into Salesforce has been reps, humans that get on calls, and their top priority is not data collection. Their top priority is to work the deal, to close the deal, to develop a relationship, to be consultative, to be challenging, to book the next meeting. And by the way, while you're at it, you may want to come and fill in the 35 fields we have in our CRM for you as soon as you're done, and right before you get on the next call to do it all over again. And when you find in that premise is terrible behavior. The reps just pick the 3 fields that matter that their manager checks at, and then they write content there, 1 or 2 words. And then the rest, they just write NA, NA, NA. They pick the top choice on every drop down, and they move on. So you could argue, yes, Salesforce has a lot of data, but the reality in the field is most of that data is completely irrelevant. You get in front of CROs who have told me, Santi, my Salesforce spend is $4.5 million. And when I ask them, tell me 3 reports that you trust, that you found to be useful to make your day-to-day happen, they can't. They can't pull out a single report that tells me, like, hey, every graph in this report is solid. Yes, they can do things like simple counting, like the bean counting part. Okay, how much revenue, what stages, maybe the stages, when is it going to close? They can trust that a little more. But when you really want to double click into things like what pain do your customers have? What is the most common objection you're running into? What pitch resonates most in which segments? They just can't. That data set falls way short. So that's the problem we try to address.
So you're basically letting, like, hey, reps, just keep selling. We take care of the data thing.
Exactly. Data collection is the most fundamental misalignment in sales, but everybody's aligned when it comes to letting the reps sell, make more quota, make more money. The leadership wants it, the business wants it, but then we're at odds with each other at the point of data collection. And that's what we want to get rid of.
And I think that's the data bottleneck, or data-based bottleneck, if you could call it that, on the post-sale, or no, not the post-sale, but like on the throughout the sales process, right? Whereas, I interviewed Elio Narciso, the founder of ScaleStack. I don't know if you know them. It's like the clay for enterprise, right? And what they do, it's basically, automate all the wrangling data, like all of the part where the SDR needs to be dealing with Excel sheets and providers to get a fucking good list to prospect, right? And paying for it. Well, with ScaleStack, they can do it off of workflows that get improved on automatically through the machine learning of the data that the AI is pulling, right? From, you pulled this list that I helped you make and it's not working great. Let me make it let me readjust.
I love it.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's literally what you've done for throughout the sales process. You want, and his pitch is the same. It's like sales reps are spending too much time doing things that are not selling, basically dealing with tech.
Yeah,
that's it. And so in your case, you're freeing them up of the CRM hygiene tasks of filling in stuff and having data flow, basically, which again should happen automatically. AI can do it, right? In a non-intelligent but logical way, right? Like in a way that's coherent and cohesive with your company brands and all that you mentioned. So yeah,
that's completely right. So we give you control over the prompts, and I think we should move on from the product itself. The ideas, of course, I'm excited by, as you can tell, and I can talk about it forever. I don't want to bore your audience too much with a pitch of momentum, but I'll wrap it up with a beautiful bow. At the very beginning, you said, "Hey, you just make so much content on video. I love your brand building. How do you do it?" Well, because I control the prompts and Momentum is watching every call I take, I have it analyzing my own calls and is systematically plucking out when I have a monologue, like of course on this call we had many that are interesting, that are opinionated, that are catchy, that are brief and tight. And it literally gives me the little clip. It's just like, hey, here's a part of a call I thought was LinkedIn worthy. And I wrote the prompt that defines what is LinkedIn worthy. So I'm literally using Momentum and I'm slicing my own sales calls to then generate material that I post on LinkedIn automatically. So I get free brand and, free
I figured it
marketing.
would. I figured it would be with Momentum, of course, right? But that's it. Yeah, that's really nice. Okay, so now I want to talk about what you mentioned, content and go to market in general. You guys, enterprise listening, right? This is a big positioning statement. What made you? Because you guys are 4 years, you said 5?
Yeah, we're about to come into our 5th year in about 6 months. Yeah.
Right. And how long have you? Like, when did you make the decision we're going enterprise? Like, we're gonna make this the focus.
Well, Momentum, this solution we have, and it took us a little while to learn this, but it's inherently an enterprise play. If you think about it, smaller companies don't need that much access to data. They're not that desperate to understand what's going on. When you have a head of sales and a team of 3 reps, the head of sales is always talking to the reps, and they have this field perception of what's going on. So they don't need the type of solution we offer. We started seeing a lot more success when we had conversations with Julian at 1Password, 250 reps, Nate at Ramp, 450 reps. When you really start reaching scale is when you lose touch with what's happening in the front lines, where you see the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? The loudest reps are the ones that are telling you what's going on, but then the quiet reps are not, so you miss part of the story. So the solution was inherently enterprise, which honestly was very lucky for us because over the last couple of years, 2022, 2023, the SMB has been struggling. Startups have been dying a lot more often than before. They've not been growing as easily as they did before. So if you were having this easy PLG motion where you landed for $20 and 3 seats, and you expected that business to become 100 seats a year and a half later, that's rare now. Now, if you sold to Zscaler and they have 2,600 people in the sales and go-to-market organization, they're not going anywhere. They're only going incrementally up and to the right. So retention and growth is a lot more likely to happen on the enterprise side of the market. It's just a harder motion and requires you to get in the weeds, right? You got to build an SDR organization. You got to figure out your messaging. You can't just pay for ads and build a beautiful website and expect them to just come and put in a credit card in some form and have you grow that way.
Totally. You sold enterprise before?
No. So we had to spend the first 2 years of Momentum figuring that out and collecting the first couple of deals. Once you have people who trust you, who can sing your praises, that's when you kind of get a bit of a flywheel going. If you look at Momentum today, another key differentiator from perhaps companies that are following a novel approach like us of using Gen AI, they don't have the logos that we have. They've not been selling in that sector and they've not earned the trust of informed buyers. Those people have a reputation to protect. So they're not going to come into a testimonial off you, for free. That you need to deliver real value. So that's another lucky break for us. We're heavily differentiated in the enterprise.
Was there any specific big hurdle in making the platform, like the Momentum's privacy and security, enterprise grade? Or was it straightforward or not?
It was not too bad. If you have good engineering from day one, we are engineers ourselves. I'm selling and I'm an engineer. I was a CTO twice before taking this job. My CTO was my first engineer 3 times over in our careers. So we trust each other very well. So I would say if you have good engineering from the very beginning, it's actually way easier than, not doing this at all and then 5 years later deciding to overhaul your whole operation. So I would also say in the modern days, you have vendors like Banta and auditors that are tech forward that allow you to go through the process more easily. And selling what we sell, we had to get through it, I think, in the first 12 months of starting the company. So we did it early, and I would say it didn't feel like a big drag ever.
I want to ask you 2 questions that go hand in hand. One is what is the strategic value of AI in GTM decision making beyond updating a knowledge base, or CRMs, fields, sales enablement, content, whatever, beyond updating? beyond, data entry, data removal, like just dealing with data, decision making, strategic value in AI. And then, how is that tied, if there's any of that, how it plays into multi-threading and this sort of like game theory like strategy that goes on in enterprise deals?
Yeah, so I think honestly, the CRO is one of the most underserved personas in the revenue stack when it comes to Gen AI. Businesses have been building solutions for the front lines over and over and over again, because that's the easiest motion. That's the one that feels the easiest to penetrate. Reps may be out there looking to buy a solution for their day-to-day. They put in a credit card and they get started. So there's a lot of companies that are built and accommodated for that target. Now, as you point out, it's all about, at that point, simple, easy pains and simple, easy solutions. A CRO is not going to be out there hunting for a solution for their day-to-day. So they need to be sold and they need to be understood before you get in front of them. So they become underserved. I think at scale, when companies have hundreds or thousands of people talking to customers, one of the biggest challenges of a CRO is understanding what is actually going on. Where are we losing? Where are we winning? Where are we hitting our goal? Where are we not hitting our goal? And whatever metrics there are. And the data set we analyze is one of those. So Gen AI can become an ally for the CRO to understand. It's not about filling fields anymore. At that point, what you want is a ChatGPT-like experience where you can collaborate and ask questions and get answers. And the answers need to be based on your team, what's going on in your field. Hey, tell me the 5 most common objections we've seen in the last week. Hey, can you break it down by the 3 verticals that I'm interested in? Enterprise, mid-market, SMB. Can you tell me which deals we lose more often based on these objections? And just kind of have a conversation. It's almost like Gen AI can become a super powered RevOps person that gives you answers in real time and can slice through the data immediately rather than on a 6 weeks cadence or 6-month cadence, which is what is taking RevOps teams today to get you those answers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ScaleStack defines themselves as the RevOps hero, right? I mean, these tools are really useful for anyone in RevOps, but for a CRO, I would say, like, sure, yeah, it helps them think and make strategic thinking easier, but it doesn't contribute to it in the way that it doesn't think with them, right? In a way, like, is there a world in which momentum is trained on all of the data that it gets and then spits out insights that are actually, good judgment, good business judgment, like something that can, turn around a company? Like, hey, it's been a while, like it's been 6 months, or like there's this many appearances of this pain in this segment. And according to, my knowledge base of your sales enablement content, all of the pitches are not talking to this pain. You should fix it, right? And then that's like, I don't know, 30% increase in close rate. You see what I'm saying?
That's something we have seen. There's 2 pieces that today we've left for later, because we first need to build the foundation of data that allows us to do that job well. One of them is strategic decision-making and advice, coming to a CRO and tell them, hey, but first, of course, we got to identify all these data points in your calls to be able to pattern match and give you advice. But once we do, yes, we'll come to a CRO and say, look, I found a new pattern, a combination of data points over your deals that yield to higher close rates or lower close rates. And I can proactively identify the cases in which you hit one or the other and give you advice on how to correct it. So that's one. The second piece is agentic execution. Like, could a model execute 30% of the deal, do the follow-ups, plan the next prep for a pricing negotiation? Could it be engaged in the deal process itself to better execute the deal at the rep level? And I think both of those are possibilities. It's just we're trying not to put the cart ahead of the horse. We're trying to build a data foundation that will allow us to get there. And today we're able to very well sell access to that data before we start acting on it as an agentic experience.
And I think there is a world where AI automates part of a sales process, especially building top of funnel, I think. Yeah. If it learns how to activate within triggers. I think that the issue with thinking that AI can automate top of funnel pipeline creation is thinking that it will do something methodical or something like always the same thing. I don't think that's the way. If you want AI to automate pipeline creation, you need AI doing not smart things, but event-based things, right? Like just triggers basically, and be scraping automatic in the same way that we now humans and GTM operators use Clay to build like insanely good lists, and then we manually send the emails, talking about those automatically. Then we personalize or whatever, but we are the ones dealing with the data, doing the campaign, doing the sequence. No, I want an AI doing the whole thing. Just scrape out the internet and do what you need to do. You see what I'm saying? Like, and it's doable. It's not coded yet, but yeah.
I'll tell you a little more. In the world of enterprise, every meeting you book is warm. You know that company. You sold to that team. You're perhaps cross-selling. You're expanding. If anything, you have lost 6 or 7 times that deal over the last couple of years. So you know a lot about that company, that buyer, that team, the pain points they had. So when you build top of funnel, again, it comes back to what I was saying earlier, agentic workflows will benefit from the richest data set. If I go in LinkedIn and I tell you, hey, I know you went to Stanford, me too, how cool. You're going to know that's a commoditized data set. Everybody knows that type of outreach is systematic, is programmatic, is boring at this point. So what if I told you that I could reach out and say, hey, we met 6 months ago. I met with Jill, and she told me that this is very broken in your CRM. Hey, by the way, then I met with James 2.5 months later. He said this is a problem. Would you like to meet? I can tell you how we solve it.
And you know what? I find myself, this is how the best deals close, because this is just living and being someone useful in the market, and opportunities rise. Like you talk to someone and they tell you about that. The issue is, if you're a founder or if you're an operator, you're probably too drowned to act on all of the opportunities you see every day. You see what I'm saying? Which is my case. There's no time. You got to prioritize, right? You got to say, okay, well, then I need to do first, what pays me more, whatever. What's going to close first, what? Either way. But if you have momentum or whatever, right, something that can literally just act on that and be trained on that, then it's amazing. But yeah, we're still far from that. How has your understanding of the sales intelligence space changed since you've built up momentum up until now, and with everything that's happened in this space? Because I bet there's a lot of changes
crazy
there.
It's been nuts. Oh my God. I mean, when I started Momentum, we looked up to Gong. It was this unstoppable juggernaut back in 2020. They were on a tear. They got to $10 billion valuation in 6-7 years. Incredible product, great execution, relentless team. I still look up to them in every single one of those qualities, but the market has changed. There's been a contraction, and the macro is driving every buyer to second guess the value that every product they bought has. And all of a sudden, they're starting to look at vendors like Gong and many others, Outreach too, and really questioning, like, are we actually using this tool? Is it really worth the same as Salesforce? Or does it deserve to be the second most expensive bullet point in my budget? So I think we're seeing a bit of a disillusionment in the field where buyers are starting to realize, you know what? Recording calls on premise is cool, is good. But then when I go look at what my team is doing with them, well, only about 10% of my team is logging into Gong once a month. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, I'm paying 6 figures for this thing. Does it really deliver that kind of value? So I think that, and this is why we called Momentum Enterprise Listening and not more sales intelligence or revenue intelligence or conversational intelligence, because we want to break from that mold and tell you, look, again, we're not going to solve that exact problem. We don't sell you the recording of calls and the collection of endless hours of video that nobody watches. We sell you data, we sell you the extraction of data, and we sell you decisions. And those happen without anybody coming into our product. So that's kind of what I learned.
The way I would put it is, you guys sell efficient time. That's the most precious asset that someone can get from Momentum. It's efficient time, and efficient time in business. I mean, if you don't have efficient time, then you're not producing, right? So the more you can have of it. Ask yourself, right? If you're thinking about Momentum or whatever, if you're an enterprise company, I think this is a good way to put it. Like, what could happen if all of my employees used all of their full-time hours efficiently? Wow.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not going to happen because you buy a software, right? It takes more than that, but there's a way.
Every minute counts, basically.
Exactly.
At scale, half an hour savings a week per person can yield to thousands and thousands of hours a year for a business, and that's in the end real money.
I think enterprise listening is a good way to put it, and I also think that, again, you see it how that analysis you made of like how Gong is nothing but a call recorder for most cases. Not to say that the product is just that, not at all.
There's
right?
a lot
But
more to it, for sure.
It's way more,
To
way
underplay
more.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah. You asked me
But
about sales intelligence, which to me is call recording. They do forecasting, and now they're going after outreach on the top of funnel side. So there's a lot more to it. On the sales intelligence side, I think the buyers are growing a little disillusioned on the value.
I think so too, and I think a signal that tells enough about this and goes to show that there's a lot of people that might not be taking value out of Gong or as much as it could, is that there's a lot of advice from thought leaders, influencers that are paid by Gong or whatever, or that work there, that say, hey, go watch Gong call recordings if you want to get better at sales. It's like, you got to tell them. They already have the software, but they're not watching the calls. It's like, then for that matter, if you're not watching the calls either, why are you using Gong? Just use the cloud recording and then start watching your calls. And once you start watching them, then maybe you need Gong.
That's exactly right. But nobody needs more hours of video to go watch. I already have Netflix and HBO Max and Disney Plus, and I tell you what, I don't have the time to consume any of that content, even if it's my own work.
My small business version of Gong is I have Fathom integrated with Close or
really?
of Momentum. Yeah, that's what I do.
Nice.
It refills the only relevant fields are two is the business language source. And I think those are the two most important fields that we take off of the call that we put in Close automatically. Boom! I don't need more.
Amazing.
But
you got a mini version of what we do.
Exactly. Super simple. Not even comparable. But okay. Speaking of which, Fathom and Close is an easy integration that anyone can do, actually, if they want to get their feet wet in this type of stuff. And they'll see how powerful it is. Because now I don't need to be doing that. I used to spend 4 hours a week going through all the leads and stuff and like sourcing and and how do I figure out now whether it comes from LinkedIn ads or outreach? Well, you don't, right? Because it was not pulled from the form, and now you don't find the form, and the form is deleted, whatever it may be. But apart from that, what are the actions that Momentum takes, and what are the data sources, I guess, that are usually most useful for clients? What are you seeing some patterns there, and what are the learnings?
Yeah, so there's two that are interesting. Again, they kind of come out of the philosophy we take. We want to take inputs from as many sources as possible. That's where I identified, for example, the use of support tickets as another data source. What if we could slice the tickets post-sales that are being exchanged by the implementation team on the buyer side and your own customer support team, and analyze it through the same lens of closing a deal or figuring out the renewal? And what we find is there's so many early signs of churn and risk in the day-to-day, dull support flows that happen for the 365 days of them being a customer of yours, and not just the last 30 days when you're trying to renew the deal. So that to me has been a very refreshing, interesting data set. In fact, calls are cool and calls are incredible because it's just so dense with information, but people rarely break up with you on a call. They'll miss the call, and that will be a sign. And then they'll have 13 support tickets where they are mildly disappointed and mildly annoyed and being very upfront about the shortcomings of your team or your product. And that is the signal that we found to be more powerful on the side of bad news and attrition and churn than on the call side. And then the second side is outputs. We found more and more customers want Snowflake to be the output. They really want to own their own data. And I found this pattern to be super interesting with Clay as well. I think the industry is going through a bit of a transformation where the unicorns of 2018 and 2020, they were building their own ivory towers. They were building their own silos where data would live and you would depend on them to get value. And I think the unicorns of this age, like Clay and hopefully like Momentum, give you control of your data. They give you access to it, and they can systematically push it where you want it. Do you want it in Databricks? We'll put it there. Do you want it in MySQL? We'll put it there. You want it in a CSV? Come and download it. Get it. We'll push it into Salesforce, of course. So I think Snowflake and some of these data lake approaches are also quite interesting, because then it means you can run post-analysis on your own front.
Yeah. We need a generation of 0 to 1 founders that don't want to be monopolistic.
It's what they pitch you. I mean, it's hard to become a billion-dollar business if you don't own the workflow, if you don't own the data. That's what VCs have been training us to do.
Yeah, no,
So it's
no.
a bit of a breaking of the mold.
I think. What do you mean by that, though?
Well, to be a large business, you need to have a moat, and moats are usually data moats, or it's if you own a workflow, it's a bit of a moat. If I am the product that my buyer uses, Monday at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and Friday at 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., that workflow becomes your moat, becomes your retention. It's a really hard thing to accomplish, by the way, and Gong has struggled to drive that as part of what we were saying earlier. Outreach, for example, has been able to accomplish it, although we could argue that you can replace Outreach with Apollo without a lot of effort. So they own the workflow, but then it's an easy to replace workflow. But that's what drives growth, and that's what drives multi-million-dollar contracts in the end, which gets you to a billion-dollar valuation. Our moat, and I think this happens with Clay too, we have the data and we're the best at slicing the data, but we can give it to you because our customers demand it. Our customers say, you know what? I love the Momentum analyzes this data better than anybody else, just like we did with Clay. But I also want my data for myself. I want to put it in my Snowflake. I want to run my own models on top of it. And we're very much philosophically open to it. Like, you know what? Let us not limit the power of this data set for you to the limitations of what my platform has. Let me give you the data if you want it, systematically, in real time, high quality, and then let you come back to us if you find that we're a better way to slice it. We obtain it for you, but we don't necessarily hold it.
I shouldn't have said monopolistic. I should have said generalist. It's what I meant by that is that 0 to 1 founders, people that innovate. If you're creating something from starting a new category, doing something that wipes out the entire previous market, right? Because it's a new thing that makes you do it in a new way that makes you not need anything from before. When you do that, you need to do so in a specific and concrete, in a specialized way. You don't do so in a generalist way. I don't think, at least in this age, for technology and AI, right? Sure, you did so when you built Salesforce, when you built NVIDIA, when you built the big tech of the 2010s, right? And what we've seen, Stripe, Dropbox, whatever, Airbnb, all those were needed to be built, Uber, and then Bolt, or whatever. Those are generalists, sure. But more and more now, with AI in tech, you win, and from 0 to 1, not just from 1 to N, but from 0 to 1, if you build a new category, you're winning by being vertical, right?
Yeah.
And my point to that is, not only you guys have the moat of, you need to have the moat of the workflow, but also for a specific, in your case, enterprise. And then you could argue that there will be tools that will have the same capabilities as yours, but they will be focused on making the use case for this industry, right? Or
100%.
this other, exactly.
Product management, or there's so much for sure.
And those will have a bigger moat than you. Or what I think is that eventually what will happen is, because founders like you enable to make the output and the value to be captured by the user in its, not in its entirety, but they're not, you're not obsessed with, and now you want your output to go into Snowflake. No, I won't let you. I need to capture that part of the value chain as well. No, you're content with understanding that the value chain that you're solving right now, it's already huge. And you see how other parts of the value chain can be, the value there can be captured by other people. So it's like, those people are asking you, I want my data in Snowflake. Those are the ones that then will think of, okay, now that I have it in Snowflake, how do I use it for this, and that? And those people, soon enough, will be able to program their own software for doing those workflows. That's the thing.
Totally. Completely. I think ultimately you don't win by developing a data moat anymore. What I tell my team and my investors, I think you win by out executing. It's a very competitive market. So in the end, it doesn't come down to secrets. It doesn't come down to holding data close to your chest. It comes down to being the better team, to showing up every day and outputting 1% more than everybody else. And you compound that over 200 days in the year, compound that over 5 years, and you end up miles apart. So to me, I'm a purist in that sense. I try to actually drive execution as our only wedge.
That will always be the biggest moat, that's for sure. I would say, distribution is a good moat. You guys are doing good stuff there. It's not only about engineering. You have a good product, but you need to, of course, and you guys are doing so, right? If I could be of any help. Either way, it's been a pleasure. What can someone do if an enterprise, well, probably an enterprise is already in your pipeline and they're not here listening right at this point. But if anyone wants to know more about Momentum, what should they do? Where to find, whatever.
Yeah, so if you are an ICP and you want to know more about us, please reply to Martina or somebody else in her team. They've probably been sending you emails and LinkedIn messages and Slack messages left and right, or calling you on the phone. If not, I'm sorry, you should come to our website, momentum.io, sign up for a quick demo. I would love to personally meet you myself and tell you more about us.
Awesome. Great stuff. It's been a pleasure, and hope you have you back at some point.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you for listening to the FounderVideo podcast with Will Yuste. See you on the next episode.